What's up, guys, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the NeoVintage podcast. I'm Jabro, and I'm here with
Steve. Hope everyone's doing well out there.
And for you guys who have never seen the show before, we're just two guys that like to talk over the biggest stories in gaming, and we always like to start with what we've been playing. So, Steve, what you been playing?
Yeah, so not too much. I was on vacation, so I didn't have the most time to play. Just a few more little updates on things I have been playing. Obviously, The Last of Us Part 1. Got a little bit more time with that since our last episode. And I know I talked about the technical issues I was plagued with. Knock on wood, it seems to have stopped. I completely uninstalled it, reinstalled the game, and it seems to not have given me issues again. I hope I hope it stays that way because the game is really solid. Like we said, I don't have much more to say besides that. I gave a little more time to Saints Row, unfortunately, and man, this love-hate relationship I have with Saints Row is starting to really get to me, to the point where it's like now I feel like I've gotten to the point where I feel like I'm forcing myself to just get through it, where I have usually I'm watching a video at the same time or I'm listening to a podcast and I'm just literally going to checkpoint just shooting things, not interested in the story at all. So I think I'll probably truck along with it until something big hits. I know we got some big things coming out pretty soon. Last of Us isn't taking all my attention away, just because that one's I'm also kind of not coasting. I'm just enjoying it. Again, I don't have to worry about spoilers for a 9-year-old game. So luckily, I'm just kind of coasting through that. But Saints Row, which is the game I wanted to sort of dive into and get the platinum in and everything, I don't see that happening. I think as soon as something comes to suck my attention away, it'll be over. Especially if I don't get this beaten by God of War time, Sonic Frontiers time. It'll quickly go away, and it hurts me to play it sometimes. The only other things, I've been playing, just in connection to some of the stuff we're going to be talking about later, some stuff that were announced. Obviously, I've been playing a lot of Tekken 7, just to try to keep things brushed off. A lot of Street Fighter 5, just because we've more Street Fighter. I don't think that's anything on the docket today. No, Street Fighter 6. They've been showing a lot of videos. They have a lot of big influencers. Obviously, Maximilian. A lot of big fighting game influencers and YouTubers have a lot of footage of Street Fighter. So watching all that new Street Fighter footage, which looks fantastic. I don't know if you've had the time to check out. I'm gonna send you some compilations so you can see
definitely
some of the stuff that's coming out to Street Fighter 6. It's gonna be really exciting. So just been you know what it is. You see a bunch of Street Fighter stuff. Obviously, it makes me want to play Street Fighter. And things like that. Same, I was watching and listening to a lot of stuff and reading a lot of Dragon Ball. Not lore necessarily, but the current run in the manga. So I've been playing a lot of Dragon Ball games too, just to give me a refresher. It's been a while since we've gotten a new one anyway, so I'm playing a little bit of Xenoverse 2, a little bit of the Fighters. That one I just don't have time to learn all that twitchy mechanics again like that. So it's just been sort of just picking and choosing here. The main thing I played, which is no real surprise, obviously on the flight, the perfect flight game, Vampire Survivors. Still loving that game, man. What a great game, especially when right before my flight you had these crazy runs.
Right? Yeah. I'll get more into that later.
I was so jealous. I was like, oh no, and I could not. Obviously, the game with the RNG and sort of the randomness of it, I obviously could not just create these awesome runs that you were getting with. But I was trying some of the characters I usually never do, just to see one, because I forgot the names I always lose. But there's the one who starts with that giant area bonus, so he has
with the garlic.
But if if you get garlic with him, but it's instead of the regular fireballs, he's I think a mage. For the first minute, the fireballs are massive.
Yeah, I know.
So I did a couple fun runs with him trying to unlock these newer levels. And it's funny because I don't think we're going to stop talking about this for a while, because if I'm not wrong, there's going to be a major update. It may already be out, but there is going to be a major update soon where even the price of the game is increasing from, I don't know, whatever it is, $2.99 to probably double, because they're adding so many things to it. So I'm excited to see that, just because I wanted to keep... just Vampire Survivors is great, man. I had my Steam Deck. I played a few matches of Tekken and stuff on the flight, and immediately I was put some music on, and was rocking with the Vampire Survivors. So we can't stop talking about Vampire Survivors. What a great game. That's all I've been playing. Again, I didn't have too much time to dive as much as I was hoping to in the last few weeks. So it's been good. What have you been up to?
Yeah, I guess I could piggyback off what you just mentioned, Vampire Survivor. Yeah, I had been playing on my Steam Deck as well. You know, I've had some Steam Deck issues for quite a while, so I haven't really been playing my Steam Deck as much. And so I just transitioned it to my computer. You know, Steam has cloud save, so I didn't miss a step there. And I've just started playing on my PC pretty much, or my laptop. And something happened. I don't know. I can't necessarily explain it, but something just clicked where every run I do now, I'm hitting level 80 plus every time, every single run, every single character. I don't know why. Things have worked out well. I've learned some different strategies and definitely some movement strategies depending on the map that I think are advantageous, but that doesn't explain 100% of it. So I don't know why my runs have been so crazy. I sent you some videos of it, but where I was basically maxing out the maps where there was so many enemies on screen it wasn't moving anymore, and my character was just getting so much XP that I wasn't able to level up weapons anymore. So I was just either getting my choice between the chicken, which is your health, or money, and that happens after a certain point where you max out all the different weapons and buffs that you have. And so, yeah, that's really interesting to kind of see. And at this point, I'm basically just trying to unlock there's so many bonus characters, so I'm just trying to do small things. A lot of them are pretty hard to do, but once you get a good run going, they're actually not that bad. So, for example, to unlock certain modes or certain characters, you need to wait to the 25-minute mark, and they'll usually spawn a pretty powerful enemy at that point. But theoretically, if you make it to the 25-minute mark of a map, chances are you should have everything you need to fight that enemy, even if it's that powerful. Just because surviving 25 minutes is not a small feat. Typically, I find that once you hit around level 30, that's kind of make or break usually. You'll know whether it's a botched run or you'll be able to put some work in. So I also have some enemies that I find to be very, very, or some characters that make it. They're not that they're easier, but the way that their weapons are designed, it makes that kind of early offense go a lot faster. And that my guy at one point was the old dude with the garlic, just because you could just walk into people and just start collecting XP super easy. But I have this person, I don't know what her name is, but she basically produces a wave of energy in a pillar above and below her. And you can kind of strafe and just collect XP. If you have the attractor orb high enough, you can kind of just start collecting XP very easily. And if you hit nice diagonal movements, and especially if you're in a more linear map, which I won't get into too much because not everybody's unlocked those, but there are maps that are very vertical, there are maps that are very linear, and then there are maps that are kind of just open areas. If you're hitting a vertical map with that power set, you're you're super fine. There almost no enemies can touch you that way. So it's just developing little strategies like that, just knowing, okay, I'm going to this map, who is equipped for this well, and also, and I feel character types that are probably really good late game that are not so good early game. So I've noticed a lot of people online that maybe haven't played as much still gravitate more towards the mage characters and find themselves having some difficulty early on, and that's because they're all aiming for contact with you, and you're kind of reliant on whenever a projectile hits them, and they're naturally going towards garlic or increasing armor or increasing the heart regeneration, which I've noticed that you don't need armor and heart regeneration if you make sure that the enemies can never touch you. So that's why that's my strategy. So Holy Bible, the little flame wand thing, you get those two leveled up all the way. You don't need to regenerate health that you don't lose. That's the strategy. So, so just developing strategies like that. I just play this game constantly, as you could tell. So, I love this game.
So good.
Yeah, so I've been playing a ton of that. I mostly leave it to the weekends now because my runs have been going so long. So I'll have like Alyssa in the other room be like, "Can we leave?" And I'm like 30 minutes into a run, I'm like, "I can't yet. You don't understand. I'm fighting a giant lobster right now." Um, so now I pretty much leave my runs to the weekends because they just tend to go really long. So typically at this point, if I'm playing Vampire Survivor, I'm probably playing for no less than 2 hours. And that's 4 runs there. It's not even a lot of runs, but it just takes a while. Next, also been playing Splatoon 3. Been like chipping at it little by little. It's not something I play a lot of, but it's something I like quite a bit. So yeah, not much to report there. It's good. First Splatfest happened. I played a little bit of that. Yeah, I like it. I've noticed that Splatoon, the experience you have in Splatoon and how fun it is entirely dependent on like what your approach is to it and how social you are with it. I think Splatoon is one of Nintendo's more social games. And I think if you invest in the social portion of it and you're keeping up with the Splatfest, you're playing with your friends, you're choosing different sides, you're keeping up with all the little tiny lore things they do, and you have your favorite characters, and you're playing around with the aesthetic of your character and trying to unlock different costumes and stuff like that. I think that's where it probably becomes the most fun. I play only really the story portion. I think it's really good from that perspective, but it's not a massive kind of diversion from what they did on the second one, so that's probably why I don't have like a ton of thoughts there. And then yeah, Last of Us Part 1, I played through it all. I played through the DLC. I had a blast with it. I loved it, and I kind of made a joke as I was playing halfway through it where I was like, hey, if I like this and I want more, I guess I could just replay 2, because I haven't replayed 2 pretty much since it came out. I like dabbled with it lightly when they did all the PS5 upgrades to it. Like, they didn't properly release it on PS5, but from what I understand, it had like a frame rate boost, and like it keeps like a better image the whole time. And so I actually, the moment I beat 1, I jumped right into 2 immediately. And so I'm like halfway through 2, I think. I'm very deep into it. And yeah, I'm having a blast. I'm liking Part 2 now more than I liked it when I played it initially, to be honest with you, especially coming off of straight from 1. First off, I have to commend Naughty Dog, where jumping straight in from Last of Us Part 1, the remake, into Last of Us Part 2, that transition is near seamless, and I have to commend them on that. The fact that they actually took the 2013 game and closed that gap, so I could say pretty confidently, with small exception, yeah, like you can't do that quick dodge system, and there's some quality of life improvements that they have into. Other than those small, tiny things, the experience in terms of just like that polish and what it feels like to play, it has been closed between Part 1 and Part 2. You can get kind of that unified experience, which is, I mean, a wonder of technology, the fact that they were able to pull that off, because there's no amount of cleanup or whatever that, you jump into almost any of these other sequels, GTA 4, GTA 5, or the GTA trilogy, or Red Dead 1, Red Dead 2. They do their cleanups, but you could still tell that there's that age there. But like with Last of Us, I mean, they cleaned it up. They brought it forward all the way, and I have to commend them for that. And yeah, Last of Us Part 2, I really always love that game. I know people have their like criticisms of it, but one thing from just like a pure gameplay standpoint, I think it's like a masterclass. And I mean, I think it's hard to argue that Last of Us Part 2 from a gameplay perspective is not the superior Last of Us game. I would never argue the story, of course not. But from a gameplay perspective, the way the AI works, the dogs hunting you, the way that they kind of respond to you killing other ones, and the way they kind of try to surround you and flank you if possible. Like, the AI is just incredible in that game, and it feels so immersive when you hear people calling out other people's names, and you're listening to them so you can see the little kind of hazy structure, and you could see them trying to get around you and almost communicating with each other. It's trippy. And then you have to to take the dog out because it's going to catch your scent. It's just really, really impressive stuff. Again, we spoke in depth about Last of Us Part 2 when it came out, so I don't have to go much deeper than that. But yeah, I'm loving the story, and one thing I do love about Last of Us 2 is say what you want about some of the narrative choices, but it sticks with you, and there's not a lot of games that I play that I find myself, a year, 2 years after release, that I'm still kind of like grappling with some of the stories and narratives that they and decisions that they made in that game. Just the story about vengeance and perspective. You take all these actions in a split second without thinking in Last of Us 1, and the fact that it kind of comes to bite Joel in the ass in 2, and in some ways you can't necessarily blame him. Like you can hate Abby all you want, and not to get too intense of spoilers, but when you really see her perspective, it's kind of a trippy thing to be on the other side of it and to fully empathize with the character, even though they did something that you would consider incredibly horrific. But it's like it's a matter of perspective of like who's really wrong in this situation. It's pretty trippy stuff. So I'm enjoying it quite a bit. And the one thing to say is, Last of Us Part 1 is better than Part 2, absolutely, in terms of a narrative perspective. But in my opinion, I've never found the gap between them to be that wide that some people think. I think Naughty Dog delivered on both, and I think 2 is a challenging game, and they made a lot of choices that are really tough to stomach, but I can respect them going for it, and I respect them returning back to Part 1. When they announced the Part 1 remake, I was very skeptical about its need, and I still find 70 to be a little steep for it, but overall I would say that they took a brilliant game and made it better, and at the end of the day, like, can I complain about that? Not really. It's a proper remake, and that's the one thing that everybody gets concerned about is this a remake, but is this called a remake, but is it actually just a remaster, or is this just like a texture upgrade or something like that? And it's like, no, they really did clean it up top to bottom, and with small exception, it feels like they properly rebuilt this game from the top to bottom, and it has 2022 2021 Naughty Dog polish with the brilliant story of 2013, which is kind of like a dream come true. That's one thing that I've always asked for, which is like, if I could have like the superior story with the newer functions of the engine, that's like gold, and that's effectively what they did there, so I can't really complain that much. But I've been having a good time. I've been trying my best to dedicate all my time, because I don't have the most gaming time anymore, so I try to game I try to dedicate as much time to possible as to games that I like really, really rock with, which is why I had such a low tolerance for Saints Row, just because I don't have a lot of time, and so I can't spend it miserable. I just can't. I can't afford that. And so one day I think I will return to that game, but I will return to that game when I have nothing else to play. I don't have the luxury of like spending time, LARPing with these grown adults in a cardboard kingdom. Like, I just don't have time for that. So, but yeah, that's everything I've been playing.
No, that's good. You make a lot of good points about The Last of Us. I had a conversation over this week with someone who super against The Last of Us in general.
Like the whole franchise?
The whole franchise.
Okay.
Which, if you're not into post-apocalyptic, which they weren't, obviously, it's not going to be your jam. But I do, and a big point that he was trying to make to me was, but why did they remake it? I said, the thing is, now that it's remade, and it's classified as Part 1, these two games are now forever preserved. As much as technology can get advanced, these games won't age badly now. These games will always be able to be playable now, which is really exciting.
Yeah,
that aspect.
Yeah, for sure. And despite my like praise of it, like, did this game need to be remade? No, not at all. Not at all. This is not a Resident Evil 2 situation where it's like it's so old and clunky that is prohibiting modern players from going back to it. That Last of Us 1 came out in 2013. Like, it's not prohibitively clunky. So no, it didn't need to be remade. However, if you were going to remake a game, this is how I'd want them to do it, so.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, to a certain extent, taste is taste. Everybody has their own thing, and you could make the best fantasy game on earth, and if you're not into fantasy, you're probably not going to like Skyrim. No matter how great the game is, no matter how much work they put into it, how much polish they put into it, it's not going to be your cup of tea. And so, I would never take issue with somebody being like, hey, I just don't like post-apocalyptic games. I get it. I don't really like playing horror games, and I know how brilliant like Outlast is and Dead Space. I don't want to play that. Like, it stresses me out. So, I totally get that.
No, yeah, absolutely.
All right, so I guess we can get into the stories. We have three pretty big ones. It was a pretty big week in gaming, and we kind of got blessed with two major events. Almost, I think was it like the same day. Like I think it was pretty close.
They're like 3 hours apart.
Yeah, so we got a Nintendo
Both
Direct.
the day before.
Yeah, and a State of Play, which is awesome. You very rarely see them kind of overlap. It's like the eclipse of the game industry. But yeah, we got a Nintendo Direct for September 2022, and so here are some of what announced. So we'll just go thing by thing, but we'll get the huge one out of the way. So the sequel of Breath of the Wild is called The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and we have a date, May 12th, 2023. We got a little bit like an extended trailer and a look at the overall aesthetic of it, and I think it answered some questions and presented a lot more. I loved what we saw there. There's not a ton of thoughts I have because they didn't show a ton. Tears of the Kingdom sounds very interesting. I like the title so far. The date I'm actually quite happy with. It gives it enough breathing room that they, I think, have a lot of time to work on it, but it's not so far out that I feel like, why are we talking about this? So I think that's like a pretty solid time for it. And overall, I would say that I'm just glad to see that this is actually real. Like I actually talked about, it wasn't this quick little splash screen where it's like, Breath of the Wild's getting a sequel and then that's kind of the end of it, where it's like, now this is actually a real game, we got to look at it. And it answered one of my big questions, which is, is this gonna be the Majora to Ocarina in the way that, it's a just reskin of everything we had seen previously, but darker maybe, where I think, this showed pretty confidently that, they certainly pan to areas that look like the plateau from Breath of the Wild, so there's going to be familiar things there, but I think overall, this looks like a massive expansion on what they did previously. This is not just the plateau but darker, you know what I mean? Which I would have been totally happy about, because again, the Ocarina to Majora thing was a masterclass in showing how you could flip something you did previously and give it new life. So I wouldn't even be mad at that necessarily, but this is showing that this is an expansive thing that they're trying to pull off here, and this is a proper next game, even if it does include some of the things previously. Keep in mind, this is the same console, but that did come out at the very launch of the Switch, and that also came out on the Wii U. So I think with this game, we're going to see a lot more confident in Nintendo in the way that they're a lot more comfortable with the hardware and how to properly make a Zelda game on the hardware. But they have quite a fight ahead of them, considering that they are making a sequel to what is regarded by many to be one of the best games of the modern era. So I'm excited with what I saw. What did you think?
Yeah, no, it was super exciting. I think Tears of the Kingdom is an interesting title. It obviously leaves tons of questions. It looked, obviously, it's running on its same engine, so aesthetically it looks the same. Slightly
very similar,
cleaner. But yeah, a lot of areas don't look like they're just reuses of Breath of the Wild. Obviously, there's a lot of sky stuff going on here, reminiscence of Skyward Sword that we just replayed through not too long ago.
Yeah.
Super cool. Riding that, there's like a point where he jumps and rides like a stone bird or something like that. That was going on. So it's exciting. I think everything about it just finally feels like it's real. Like for so long they were like, here's a teaser trailer. We're working on a sequel to Breath of the Wild, which was really weird to announce it like that.
Yeah.
But to know it's real, to try to retrain our brain, because now for 3 years we've been calling it Breath of the Wild 2 because we didn't know what it was called. Tears of the Kingdom is going to be hard to try to finally remember. But it's interesting. It comes out on my wife's birthday, which is really weird.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be a battle. But it looks good and it just feels so real, and I'm almost pretty confident in the state, just because of the amount of delays we've already seen with it. So I'd be surprised for them to. You gotta remember, they announced this game like 2 E3s ago, and then said nothing for like a year and a half. So for them to finally come out and give it a day, I feel like it's probably really, really. It's probably not set in stone, but it's probably way, way along.
Yeah, and I don't think there's a ton of teams in the game industry where we can kind of just be like, you know what, do your thing, take your time. We know what you're going to release is going to be of the highest quality. There's not a ton of teams that you could do that with that I'm comfortable with. Like, do what you have to do. That's where the Naughty Dogs come in, and that's where, these guys, where in terms of like a mainline Zelda, in terms of just a straight categoric miss, like I can't think of many. You know what I mean? Like there's ones that I don't love. Like I don't love Skyward Sword, but overall, I would say that they've shown that they can deliver. You give them the time, they give them the resources, they will deliver something, and they won't waste your time. And so I have full faith in how good this game's going to be. And I think it's in good hands. So yeah, Breath of the Wild. The sequel, Tears of the Kingdom, is coming out May 12th, so we have that to looking forward to, and that's going to be big. Next one, another big announcement for many people, Pikmin 4, finally, what's been kind of talked about for God knows how long. If there's going to be another Pikmin game, looks like there is. They didn't show a ton of, they didn't show any gameplay or anything like that, but it's a similar aesthetic to the previous ones. I'm not the Pikmin person. I don't think I've ever played Pikmin in my life. Like, I don't know anything about it, which I know is crazy. Yeah, I've just never played Pikmin. Do you have any thoughts about this?
No. I mean, it's interesting because I remember a long time ago that they said that the next Pikmin game was almost done, but I think they did release like a 3DS game, so they must have been talking about that because that was a long time ago, like 2016 or something. They said that the next Pikmin game was almost done. I tried Pikmin 3 on Wii U because Wii U had no games, so I had to play Pikmin 3. It's not my cup of tea, man. I don't think it'd be something you'd enjoy either. It's fine. I'm excited for the fans. I'm happy for the fans who like it. Someone enjoys it. I know there's like a little cult following.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Around it, but it looked just like every other Pikmin game to me. So good, but it's good. At least they are, I guess, getting some of these titles back out there.
Yeah, they definitely, Pikmin fans are definitely one of the more ferocious ones where they are dedicated. So I'm glad that they're able to get this. The next one, Fire Emblem Engage. This looks like this is going to be the next mainline Fire Emblem game. Looks like Martha's going to be in this one. That's interesting. Fire Emblem, unfortunately for me, is one of those franchises that I actually really, really rock with. Just like Xenoblade Chronicles. I like these franchises, but I just never get around to playing them, and enough time has elapsed where I'm so many games behind that I don't even know to jump in. So Fire Emblem Engaged, I need to look into my ability to jump into this narratively because I've missed so many. But it looks fine to me. It looks in line with all the other Fire Emblems. And this might be messed up. I'm not a Fire Emblem player, so maybe I'm speaking out of turn here. This one looks a lot more conventional than the last two that I feel like were announced, where they announced some previously and with the 3 houses and all that, and I'm like, oh, they're doing some other stuff here, where this one looks a lot more in line with what I remember from Fire Emblem. And then feel free to correct me if I'm mistaken there. But what were your thoughts about Fire Emblem?
No, yeah, I was surprised that we were getting one so soon.
Yeah, it's been quick.
January, I want to say they're aiming for this release. So it is interesting. So Fire Emblem and I are we have a weird relationship. Some of the games really speak to me. Other games really don't. I didn't really enjoy 3 Houses because of so much of the school social aspect of it. Just because I don't think it was integrated that well. I know other people really liked it. This feels almost a little bit, especially since I think the character you are is a divine dragon rider or something like that. So it's really reminiscent of the first real Fire Emblem game I played, was Birthright and Conquest, which on 3DS, right? Yeah, on 3DS, which was super in lore with dragons and knights and stuff like that. Where I think Fire Emblem lives the best. And that was my big thing, is this looked a lot more like that than it did, 3 Houses. So it showed a lot more of just, that tactical grid combat with some zoom-ins and stuff like that, cool designs, and less of that social, let's make tea, you do this weird dating thing in 3. I played a lot of 3 Houses, don't get me wrong. So I feel like I'm justified in being all that social stuff is what stopped me from completing it, and I would love to go back to it one day, but... And this had some of that stuff where this saw you walking around some shops, and you went to a farm and you were picking clothing for people, but it just seemed a little bit more connected to what Fire Emblem is and less of its own thing. it is really weird that they have this sort of summoning thing where you're summoning previous warriors, because most of the Fire Emblem games aren't connected. I know some of the early ones are, but most of them you can pretty much jump in wherever. This one it's weird because you summon heroes. I think we see Marth and we see Seleka. I think it's Seleka was her name. So you see some of these stuff, and they say other people are going to be joining obviously the party, and obviously that's almost like a little celebration, because I thought it was going to be more of a celebration game, but I am glad to see it's this new mainline game. You got Marth right there. I think Marth's even on the cover, which is pretty interesting. So I'm excited to see it. I'm probably going to jump into it just because it speaks more to what I want from a Fire Emblem. Not sold on the character design for your main character. I don't know. There's something about it that's just off for me. But I'll get used to it anyway. So, but I'm really excited for this, and I'm happy that Fire Emblem is like. You gotta remember, I think 4 games ago, they made the final Fire Emblem game, and because of the fan reception, the series just relaunched, and they're just keeping it going. So that's super exciting.
Yeah, it feels like they pump these things out though. As just kind of the outside observer, I'm like, I feel like they always got one in rotation, which is pretty cool. That I'm glad that the Fire Emblem fans are getting that, because I felt like it was kind of quiet for a bit, and then they kind of like came back with fury. So. Glad for all the Fire Emblem fans there. We got Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe. This is another kind of port of a lot of their older titles. I like Kirby games, but to be honest with you, now that I've kind of got a taste of like new Kirby, Forbidden Lands Kirby, I don't know if I would necessarily need to go back to a lot of the older style. Personally, I have a ton of Kirby games in my collection I could play. So this is probably not something I'm going to be getting. Do you have any interest in this?
Not too much. For when I was watching this direct, I had no idea what game this was. Obviously I know they called it Deluxe. I had no idea which Kirby game they were re-releasing. This is from 2011 on the Wii.
It's Wii, right?
Yeah. So this is when Kirby first sort of relaunched and came back with its 2D style. And that's the same thing. I feel like I know Star Allies has been a while already, but I just feel like nothing I saw is like new, especially when you think it's weird because it's supposed to be a throwback. Well, I guess originally was a throwback to that original side-scrolling Kirby, which is fine, but we did get that in Star Allies, and now we got the Forgotten Lands, which is a nice, refreshing take on it. And the fact that this is gonna drop for $60, I just can't justify it right now, just because I just kind of Kirby'd out a little bit right now. I don't mind playing Kirby every 3 years or so. Kirby's not a once a year type game.
No.
To me, I'm sure for certain families and for people who, just love have younger kids, it's all for it. It's got the 4-player co-op and stuff, so that's fine. I'm excited, but maybe it's something I'll get to way later down the road.
Yeah, Kirby's a weird one for me because I feel like, with exception for the last one that just came out, which I feel like kind of reinvented what Kirby could be in the modern sensibility, I don't think Kirby's really changed dramatically since Crystal Shards or something like that.
And that was a one-off.
Yeah, what is the difference fundamentally between the ones on GameCube versus Wii versus Wii U versus the N64 one that first went into the 3D, where I really don't think that there's been a massive departure in that, which is totally fine for people who like that. But for me, I think I got out of Kirby what I would like out of Forbidden Lands. I thought that game was excellent, and so I'm cool on it for now. So until there's another mainline big Kirby game, I'm probably going to sit out for all the remakes, because again, a lot of these games I probably have Return to Dreamland on Wii somewhere in my collection, so I'm cool on that. Next one, Octopath Traveler, big one. Love Octopath Traveler, love the visual style that kind of birthed this new kind of 2D 3D renaissance thing that Square is on right now, that you're seeing a couple other franchises playing around with, like Live Alive and stuff like that. And so yeah, I'm glad to see this getting a sequel. I like the new characters that they've shown off so far and some of the new worlds and stuff like that. I'm just really hoping I can make it through this one. I loved Octopath Traveler 1, but I just didn't beat it because it's just a lot. So it's a lot of game. And so I just didn't get around to it. So I'm hoping to jump into this one and hopefully get through it all the way. But yeah, I didn't have any significant complaints about the first game, so I'd imagine I'd like this one quite a bit. Any interest in Octopath Traveler 2?
Yeah, I'm excited. This is one of those titles I haven't jumped in. I remember playing the demo when it came out, or whatever. I don't even know if it's a demo. It's the beginning of the game. You get a couple hours into.
Yeah, you get like
Octopath
3 hours.
Traveler. Yeah, so and I do remember doing that, and I loved everything about it. Just I knew the fact that it's like these basically eight characters, 8 stories to kind of play through, and I know they intertwine, and you don't need to play them all. But it is something that's just been kind of calling to me, and it's something that I just haven't played. I haven't bought Octopath Traveler at all. So it is something that I saw this and I was like, I see it and I'm like, man, I think it's time to play. But then I see that the sequel comes out so soon, and I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to beat Octopath Traveler before February. Maybe it's a little bit easier now because when Octopath Traveler launched, it was a Switch exclusive for a long time. It is now on Steam, and I think it's on Xbox.
Yeah, Xbox too. Yeah.
Yeah, which is weird because the sequel's coming out to everything, even come to PS4 and PS5, which they don't have the first one, which is
that's interesting.
Weird. At least I'm not positive. I'm not positive, but I don't think Octopath Traveler 1 ever came to PlayStation. So it's weird that they're getting the sequel, and I'm sure they're not going to be that connected anyway. Very Final Fantasy-esque in that sense, but it is something I saw this and I was like, man, I really, really do want to play Octopath Traveler. It's on Steam, so maybe now with Steam Deck and always having my Steam Deck with me, maybe I can get through it, try and kind of chip at it more often. But it's super cool to see it. I'm really super happy to see this because I thought maybe they were just kind of keep going off one and one, because I know we had Project Triangle Strategy hold.
Oh yeah.
There was another one. I know I'm missing one of them. But it is super cool to see that this actual version, that one that I enjoy a lot, is actually continuing as a franchise.
For sure. Next, Final Fantasy Theater Rhythm, final bar line. It looks kind of like a rhythm-esque game with a ton of Final Fantasy music, hundreds and hundreds of songs. So that's really impressive. I'm probably not going to play this, but I do like Final Fantasy music quite a bit. So who knows? If it goes on a Game Pass or something like that, I might play it eventually or something like that. But I'm probably going to skip this one. But I do like Final Fantasy music. Any interest in this?
I have the 2 Final Fantasy Theater Rhythm DS games.
Yeah, I thought that was the same franchise.
Yeah, it is. And it's fine. It is very, very simple rhythm gaming. On the DS, it was all touchscreen, so I don't know what. And I know the Switch has a touchscreen, but they don't always focus on it, so I don't know how the inputs exactly are going to be. It looks slightly changed. A lot of the songs look like they're the same songs. I was kind of excited that they're incorporating a little bit of Nier soundtracks but I think it's weird because they announced it right off the bat. They announced the game, it's gonna have 400 songs, and they're like, all right, and DLC season pass right now. I was like, whoa. And they're like, Nier, Octopath, Live Alive. Surprisingly, I was kind of confused. I was like, why wouldn't they incorporate Kingdom Hearts into it? I always forget Disney has such a big chokehold on the Kingdom Hearts section of Square, so I always forget that. But it looks fine. This is not something I'm going to be dying to play through. It was exciting to see it come back, though, because I do think it has a charm, and there's a small theater rhythm community that actually really likes to push these games, so that's interesting.
For sure. Next, we got GoldenEye 007 finally. With online play on Switch. We also got Mario Parties and the Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2, all headed to Switch through the N64 Switch Online virtual console thing that they have. And yeah, I'm happy with the game selection. I like all of these games, so I'm happy to jump into them. The only thing is I hate the drip feed strategy thing they're doing. I'm so exhausted by this 1 or 2 games every couple months thing. So I think I forget the exact date that they gave, but they said that all these games would eventually be on Switch by mid 2023 or something like that. That's so crazy. That's so unnecessary. I hate the drip feed thing. And I was gonna cancel all this outright, but I just found myself starting to I have a lot of these games physically, and just sometimes hooking them up is not always the most fun thing in the world to do. Some of them are a little challenging, so the save states are always nice to have. And so I found myself actually going back to some of these games on Switch. So I was like, you know what, I'll keep the subscription. It's not a lot of money. Yeah, so I like the game choices. I love playing these older games on Switch. It's awesome, especially with the OLED screen. Like, I can't wait to play Pokemon Stadium on the Switch. Like, it's gonna be great. But I just hate the release strategy. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I think what a tease moment, right? They show you Mario Party 1, 2, I think 3, Pokemon Stadium 2. GoldenEye, which has been leaking through ESRB for a while now.
Yeah.
So we knew that was coming. And they're like, oh, but they're gonna come at different intervals over the next 8 months.
It's crazy.
And I was like, bro, I have basically every single one of those things on my Steam Deck. I don't play them that often. I'm not trying to smash my analog sticks for Mario Party. There is something, as much as emulation is a thing these days and everything like that, I think there is something about having that just super secure save state that the Switch does have. It is interesting. It's interesting to see the whole GoldenEye thing, because I know that's been up in the air with licenses and Rare and this whole kind of weird nebulous thing that exists. Because GoldenEye, they did announce afterward that this GoldenEye port, or I guess you can call it, is coming to Xbox. Really, really weird decision that the online play is exclusive to the Switch when Switch has the worst online.
Yeah.
So that makes no sense to me. But I was like, at least I was like, you know what? I'm not mad at it. I don't really jump into the emulator, the emulator thing on the Switch that often. But it'd be interesting to go in there, just download Pokemon Stadium and not have to. And 64 games are weird sometimes because of the way the C-stick is and everything like that when you're running different emulators. So it's nice to just pick up my Switch and it works. So that'll be fun. I'm sure I'll try out GoldenEye. People really let me tell you guys, go play GoldenEye when it comes out. You're gonna see you've been looking at it with rose-colored glasses.
Yeah,
it's not that good.
They're in for a shock.
I don't know what. Wait until people think, oh, Golden. Listen. Go try it out, and I can only imagine that thing online. It's gonna be a dumpster fire, but it's cool that it's at least they're trying.
Yeah, GoldenEye I think is iconic, and I think people had a lot of fun with it back in the day. But I think they're conflating that with something that is fun currently, and not old shooters can be fun, absolutely. You go to old Doom, old Quake, and especially the best one of them all, Halo 1 Combat Evolved. I think those games aged amazingly. GoldenEye is not one of them. I played them I played GoldenEye maybe like a year ago, so not super long ago, and that game is atrocious to play now. Like it's very bare bones, and again, iconic for what it was. But I think people are kind of in for a little bit of a shock. From what I understand, this game is getting cleaned up a bit for the re-release, and especially on some of the other consoles, it's gonna have some cool things going on there. But overall, I mean, hey, I'm gonna give it a spin. But some of those like first-person shooters from that era, I'm thinking like the GoldenEyes, especially like the Medal of Honors. They're pretty rough around the edges. So best of luck to everybody who's going to be jumping into that. The next one is an interesting one, kind of an exciting one, but a weird one for me. Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion is coming to Switch properly. And so that's pretty excited. That's the new Crisis Core remake, of the PSP game that is coming out in December. This is also coming to Switch, and it seems to be coming out in December on Switch as well, which is good that there's not going to be a massive kind of like gap. The only thing that's kind of weird for me, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't recall there ever being an announcement that Final Fantasy VII Remake, the regular version, was coming to Switch, right? I only Steam from what I remember.
Yeah, so this is what a big sort of weird thing, because Crisis Core Remake is scheduled to launch on, obviously, PlayStation. It is scheduled to launch on Xbox, and it was always launching on Switch. The big thing was Xbox and Switch do not have Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's so weird.
So it is still weird. I thought this was going to be for sure followed up with an announcement of Final Fantasy VII Remake Cloud Edition or whatever. Not Cloud, streaming Cloud Edition, not main character Cloud Edition. But no, they just still tight-lipped. They're just, I don't know what's going on with that. It is so weird that the Switch does not have the remake, Xbox does not have the remake, but they're getting the prequel to they're getting the prequel to it. So it is really weird. I was just excited to see this game again, though.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I think it's cool that Xbox and Switch are getting something, because there's Final Fantasy fans on both of those consoles. Obviously, Final Fantasy started on Nintendo, so it's good to always have that connection there. But yeah, that's a really strange one. And the moment I was waiting for the remake announcement, and when it didn't come, that just reaffirmed that I'm like, oh my god. PlayStation must have that game on the lock of all locks in terms of consoles, because it's coming to PC, so that means that they have console exclusivity, but it is very much obviously locked to that game, because they're even able to drop Crisis Core on the other consoles, but that one doesn't seem to budge whatsoever, which is crazy. But and the fact that they're going ahead with Crisis Core and they're not holding it until maybe Final Fantasy VII can come out on the other consoles, maybe it's going to be some time, or it's in perpetuity. I doubt it's in perpetuity. I think one day Final Fantasy VII will probably come to Switch and Xbox, but it probably is not an insignificant amount of time, because if we were months away from that exclusivity being up, I feel like they would hold it and they would just drop them both at the same time, a little Life is Strange collection, if you will. But because if let's say by summer of next year the exclusivity went up and they could go everywhere, I feel like maybe not, maybe I'm mistaken there, but I would hold it. I'd just be like, screw it. I mean, they're not missing anything. It's not like Final Fantasy, there's a whole bunch of other, Final Fantasy 7 related stuff other than the original ones waiting on there by itself. So just hold Crisis Core for 7 and then just drop them both at once. And how Nintendo, they're just going to sell, 60 both for both of them. But no, they're coming out, almost day and date in December. So yeah, it might be a bit, or it might be forever that you're not going to be able to play the core game, which is crazy to me, because Crisis Core is great, but I do not think you get the full context of the game unless you played 7 to some extent, because I feel like you get a lot of Zack there, but I feel like Aerith's character is probably fully contextualized through the regular 7. So I mean, hey, I'm glad for more people to be able to play it, but I just hope everybody who jumps into this game knows that they are missing a pretty large part of the pie there. Next one, Resident Evil Village Cloud version, just like all pretty much the other Resident Evil games that are coming to Switch are. So as of right now, I believe they've formally announced 2, 3, Village, and 7, all cloud versions. I do not like the cloud thing. I played it on Switch before. I played Control, and I think it's functional, but it is so far from the ideal of what you'd want to do, and it's just such a goofy way. It's such a goofy fix to a problem that the Switch is dealing with. So definitely not for me. Do you have any interest in this?
Oh no, absolutely not. This is no way to play Resident Evil.
No.
I have a. It's just the fact that you have to pay full price, and I'm a big proponent of Humble Bundle. I got every single Resident Evil game the other day through Humble Bundle for $30.
Oh wow!
For Steam, so I'm talking 0, 1.
Oh, everything.
0 Origins, the Remake 2, the Remake 3, 4, 5, 6. All of them.
Yeah.
All of them. So to pay $60 to stream Resident Evil, I just don't. That's not how. It's not how it's supposed to be played. But I guess if that's your only console, this is the only way for you to experience the games. I good luck on you, I guess.
Yeah, the cloud thing for me is just, it's problematic because again, you're paying for essentially a pass, like to play it temporarily, but you're complete. With the digital ecosystem in general, we're kind of at the whims of the people who control these storefronts. But with the cloud thing, you're even more at the whim of the people who control those servers. At any point, those servers can be gone, and you're just out the money. Like, it just is what it is. And just, I'm owning something. I'm going to try to own something when it comes to my video games. Call me old, whatever, but it's just kind of crazy to me, to this idea. It's like, I'm going to pay $45, $60 so you can beam an image onto my screen when you're running in the background. No, there's just no way. There's no way. Yeah. The next one, Harvest Moon, A Wonderful Life, is getting a remake. A Story of Seasons, A Wonderful Life. I saw a little bit of confusion about this, the name change. For you guys that don't know, the original license holders of Harvest Moon no longer own that name, and a different team owns the name now. And so Story of Seasons is Harvest Moon now. It's just the name that they used, I believe, outside the U.S. For all the new titles now. And so if you ever see new Harvest Moon games coming out, it's not the original team. It's typically not the original vision for the franchise either. From what I understand, like, the newer Harvest Moon are not particularly well regarded amongst the Harvest Moon fans. Story Seasons is where all of that goes. But from what I remember, this is quite a beloved game from back in the day. For me, I've only really gone really deep into the Game Boy one back in the day, Friends of Mineral Town or something like that. I played the hell out of that one. But that's kind of the extent of my experience with Harvest Moon. I when it comes to kind of life sim stuff like that, I'm like an Animal Crossing guy mostly, and I kind of just leave it there. Any interest in this?
No. Yeah, there was. I do remember watching this direct and being super confused because I had no idea about the whole debacle of Harvest Moon and Story of Seasons, because I knew Story of Seasons games were coming out. I remember when I was at GameStop, everybody was, people, there were, groups of people who wanted them, and I was super confused all the time. But that's good for them. I did see that this is like held up pretty high as one of the better Harvest Moon, now Story of Seasons games, but and we're not gonna really talk about it. Besides this and the 7 other farming sim games that were kind of announced at this direct, was a little confusing. The fact that they decided this direct to put all of them together made no sense to me. Because it's just made no. It's just so weird. But it's so weird to have, like, I guess, like the big, not the OG, but the big, name brand farm sim type game, and then you had all these other ones there. So it is super weird they decided this direct to put them all together. But if you were gonna play one, then I guess A Wonderful Life would be the one to do.
Yeah, for sure. The next one I'm super excited about. Danganronpa creators have announced Master Detective Archives Rain Code. And yeah, it visually looks a lot like Danganronpa. I love their games, this new style. I love the new character look. I love the direction they're going with it. It's like it's still investigative in the same way, but it's a whole new kind of format than the death game thing they were doing previously. So yeah, I'm super down for this. What I don't know is, I don't know if this is Switch exclusive, so I'm gonna look into that. Personally, I'm a sucker for playing the Spike Chunsoft games handheld, so I might just play this on Switch, even if it is on PlayStation or whatever, so long as it runs well. But yeah, I'm super. This, funnily enough, besides the whole Zelda thing at the top of the show, this is probably my favorite, my most excited thing for me personally. What did you think?
Oh no, yeah, I'm a huge fan of Danganronpa. So when I saw this, I just lost. I got really excited because it's like, enough twist that it's not like Danganronpa. It's got this similar feel. It's almost got like Persona vibes too. For sure. Especially with the yokai, the way they're discussing things like and all that. So it's super interesting. I'm looking at their website right now. Platform, it just says Nintendo Switch. So that's where it's gonna have. That's where I'm gonna have to play it unless they announce it.
It might come to the others later.
Yeah, it might come to the others later. Danganronpa's just, they just came to Xbox. They just went on, I think, Steam like a year ago. So that's really, interesting. So I suspect this will come soon. If we get an announcement that maybe it comes, I'd like to play this on my Steam Deck. But this is something that I also, for sure, will be playing pretty much day one. So if I gotta do Switch, I'll do it on Switch because it looks really cool, really interesting, and it just has enough of that sort of detective side, the discussing sides, where he's like fighting, looks like Loki fighting the guy. He's like, confess to your crime.
Oh yeah.
the interjections, everything about it was just like super Danganronpa without being like their own copy.
And then the last one, SpongeBob SquarePants: The Cosmic Shake, definitely reminded me of the Battle for Bikini Bottom remake that they recently did. And so it's another SpongeBob platformer. For me, it's all about the accessibility of the game. If this game goes on Super Sale or is on Game Pass, I'm in there. But there is no universe where I pay, $40-$60 for a SpongeBob game. It's just not happening. But I quite enjoy some of them in the past. I won't lie. Like some of the small platforming sections and just whacking things around and collecting different things. I find it to be entertaining lightly. Do you have any interest in this?
No, we grew up around the same time, obviously, and I've just never been a SpongeBob guy in general. I remember some of the old episodes. Something about those games I've never been really fond of. I don't know if it's just when I played them I was so tired of collectathons, and these always usually end up being kind of slapstick collectathons.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, when I see a SpongeBob game $40, I'm just not gonna.
No way.
Absolutely not gonna buy it. But I get SpongeBob's still this cultural phenomenon, so I'm not mad at it. It's coming to everywhere. Because I think this is the second time we've seen it.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, it's coming to everywhere. PlayStation, Xbox. So I'm sure it'll be there, and I'll see some YouTubers play it. Maybe it'll be some homages, but not my cup of tea. I have zero interest on playing this.
Yeah, so before we move on to the next story, I would say overall thoughts of the Nintendo Direct. I think this was one of their better ones in a while. Like, I think this was a very, very solid one. It had a little something for everybody, the RPG fans, the action fans, and we got some significant information about Zelda finally, which is really awesome. So what were your thoughts about the Nintendo Direct overall?
It was super good, actually. I think at first when I watched it, I was like, I don't know. But I felt kind of just, again, it was just really good. They really hit you over the head with all the farming sim games. But when I look at it as a list, and we didn't talk, they gave a bunch of dates to things they're porting. Sifu, It Takes Two.
Oh yeah.
Front Mission. I think Tales of Symphonia. They gave a bunch of dates to stuff that we've played elsewhere, but things are coming over. I think there's a Fatal Frame that's never come to the West that's coming first to Switch.
Yep.
So I think when I look at it that way, it's super good. I think they teased Mario Kart 8 DLC or the next course.
Yeah, Wave 3.
I want to say there was Wii Sports, Nintendo Sports something. They delayed something, but they showed some more content.
Golf, yeah.
You had all your bases covered. You had the big title, right? You had the Zelda. You had the DLCs for your previous games. The ports and stuff like that. My only complaint, and I actually meant to ask you about this because I don't know if maybe you. I know why it's not out yet. What's going on with Advance Wars?
The 1 and 2 remake, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They had a very active promo cycle that it was going to be coming soon, and then they went quiet. I honestly don't know, and I haven't looked at it for a while. I kind of forgot that it was coming. Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah. So I feel like something went wrong. It must have, because I feel like that was close.
I want to say there was a delay, and I could be wrong, amongst when not to get political, but there was that whole Russia invasion of Ukraine. Obviously, there was an invasion of that. I don't remember why. I do remember that's when.
Was that being developed in Ukraine?
I don't remember. I just remember when this happened that it was Nintendo tweeted out and they're like, "Listen, it won't be releasing on that date."
Yeah, it doesn't have a date anymore on the site officially. They went to TBD. So yeah, I think it's gotten indefinitely pushed probably.
Yeah, which is super.
That's crazy
because that's something we really wanted to play.
Yeah, I just checked it. In case you missed it, Nintendo delayed it due to an ongoing crisis in Ukraine, and it hasn't been given a new date. So there it is. It was supposed to be apparently to come in August.
April 8th.
Oh, April.
August, but yeah.
Yep.
In light of the tweet in March, in light of recent world events, this is from their Nintendo's official Twitter. We have made the decision to delay Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp, which was originally scheduled to release on Nintendo Switch on April 8th. Please stay tuned for updates on a new release date. and nothing. So I thought for sure that they would appear here because I was like, it's not to belittle what's been going on over there, but I think it was a lot of time. So I thought that was going to be even maybe that shadow available today type deal. And it's not. So that's something I want to keep my eye on. So besides that was my only thing that I was like, yo, what's going on with that? Besides that, I was excited for this direct, though.
Yeah, if it is directly tied to the, as anybody knows, not to get too much into it, everybody in Ukraine, all the guys essentially are militarized currently. So active development, I would imagine, cannot continue until the conflict ceases, or at least subsides to some extent. And from what I understand, it's very much ongoing right now. So I would say that game is probably either gonna indefinitely be just, it'll come when it comes, if it comes, or it's gonna be given to another team who maybe can complete it for them. But it looks like either way, it might be quite a while, which is a shame because if that game was going to come out in April, that means that they were probably relatively close to being able to release it. So that's a shame. I hope that's able to see the light of day someday in the form that they would like. And if that requires, them holding on to it for a bit, and then once things are a lot more, safe for them to be able to continue at that point, so be it. But yeah, I was really excited about that one. I forgot about it.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, so we can get into the other one of the bigger news. We also had out of nowhere a state of play, a pretty strong one, I would say. But we can get into it. Same, we'll go topic by topic. Opening the show, super excited for me, obviously, especially when you have my favorite character so prominent in the trailer. Sony comes out and announces Tekken 8. Now, no, it's not exclusive. Everybody can relax. But yeah, we got our first look. We got a small teaser at EVO of Kazuya, very high def, super muscly Kazuya. We didn't know really what it was, if it was gonna be Tekken Tag 2 port or Tekken Tag 3, whatever. But no, we have the official Tekken 8 coming out. We saw all running in engine. This was the cinematic fight that takes place during a story mode, which is why there's some like cutscenes blended into it. But the fighting was actual fighting, so they claim. So super happy about this. I've been on a real Tekken thing lately. I think it's really smart with, the anime that came out on Netflix did okay. It was a pretty well done show. But yeah, Tekken 8 is coming out. No date. Again, this is all we've seen. Again, we had a close-up of Kazuya. We saw Jin and Kazuya fight in engine. What did you think?
Yeah, I'm quite excited for this. I like Tekken quite a bit. I don't know a ton about all these fighting game franchises, so Tekken has been one of the ones that I played pretty consistently since I was a kid, and so I got a lot of love for Tekken. It looks good. Can't wait to jump into it. It's a good time. A lot of the legends are coming back, it seems like, between this and Street Fighter 6 is pretty exciting times. And then I'm very excited to give a shot to this and see also what like new characters come and what vibe this is going to go for. I didn't play a ton of Tekken 7, and so I probably want to like refresh myself because again the last one that I played I think in depth was Tekken Tag 2, so I need to refresh for sure before I jump into Tekken 8. But yeah, no, this is really, really exciting news, and it looks amazing from what they've shown so far. They didn't show a lot of like gameplay or anything like that, but just from the visual style of it, like I'm just so excited to see what some of these older franchises do on such new hardware.
No, absolutely, and I'm sure we'll be getting more news as it gets closer. It's wild because the rumors are saying in 2023, so it'd be crazy that
it's quick.
We may get Street Fighter 6 and Tekken 8 in the same year.
That's big.
Give me no more, please.
Yeah.
Next, Star Wars: Tales from the Galaxies, a PlayStation VR 2 game coming. They showed a bunch of gameplay trailer off. Looks very what you expect a first-person VR Star Wars game to look like. A bunch of shooting, a bunch of familiar places. Apparently, this is something that exists already. I don't know if it exists already on PSVR. Or if it's only on other VR things, so they're calling it the Enhanced Edition. But it looks pretty cool. It does look kind of, what you think a Star Wars VR game looks like. You got R2 and you got C-3PO talking to you, taking you through different places. You're blasting, some flying. You different look at different, different mechanics and ATs and everything like that. So I know you're a pretty big Star Wars fan as well. What did you? Unfortunately, you can't play VR that much, but what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I love Star Wars, so I'd love to be able to jump into this. Funnily enough, you mentioned I don't play VR. I'm probably actually going to try to get VR too. I've never like in depth played VR. I'm just gonna see what happens. But Alyssa said go ahead and get it because she wants to actually play this because she's a bigger Star Wars fan than I am. And so worst case scenario, I try it and I can't play it. But this actually might be a game that I play at some point. Not that it looks so good that I'm gonna like that I need it. It's not that. It's just there are lots of games coming to VR that I'd really like to try. And just me as a gamer like you know, I just hate that there's a whole skew of gaming that I just can't participate in that is growing. So I'm really hoping that, you know, once I get the VR headset that, you know, it helps. There are lots of accessibility options in video games now for people who have motion sickness issues. So I'm hoping that with VR2, you know, a lot of developers are conscientious about that too, and maybe they add stuff like persistent dots and stuff like that kind of help with some of the motion sickness and stuff like that. But yeah, VR I know is a whole different ballgame. So definitely I would love to be able to play this game. But it looks fairly standard in terms of what you see a lot of the VR games for certain IPs be, where it's like it's not a unique experience. It's not like a Horizon, for example, where it's like you have this established world, but they're building something specifically for VR to tell a special story there, as opposed to other ones where you'll have different IPs and it's like it's just being in that world in VR and you kind of mess around with it. We've seen lots of different versions of this kind of game, so it looks cool, but I'm not like blown away by it.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm hoping PSVR 2 works out. They're taking a lot of like accessibility options that hopefully help you with.
I'm open.
Motion. So next up, Yakuza spin-off. So the Yakuza. So it's never comes to the West, but Yakuza Ishin is finally coming over here to Western releases in the form of Like a Dragon. They are unifying the Yakuza franchise, so there was a small, I don't know what to call it direct, but they did a small presentation where moving forward, the Yakuza games will not be called Like a Dragon. That's their Japanese name.
Yeah.
They're not called Yakuza in Japan. So very much, you know, in line with that's why everyone's going, because I know they talked about Like a Dragon 8 or Yakuza 8, whatever. But yeah, this is a spin-off one where they took the characters from everything I remember and that I was looking up. They had taken the characters from the at the time current Yakuza games and then put them in like old Japan style to retell different stories back then in Kyoto. So it's super cool to see that, you know, Yakuza, especially with Like a Dragon or Yakuza 8 Like a Dragon. Or 7, sorry. With that being just super really well done, they're pretty much bringing every Yakuza game forward and over here. So, I mean, this is a franchise I'm still dying to do a playthrough. Maybe I can finally do it now because I think most of them are on Steam, so I can kind of truck along. I just know they're kind of. I know the main gameplay is there, but I know these games are also kind of stuffed sometimes with crazy mini games and karaoke sideline stories and stuff like that. But it's super cool. I have a friend who's super into the Yakuza game. So this is the one that he does not own. I think he owns it, but obviously he can't play because he doesn't speak Japanese. So he's super excited to finally get into it. What'd you think?
Yeah, no, I'm more excited about this than, you know, Like a Dragon 8. This one I remember hearing about a couple years back, knowing that, yeah, there's like a feudal Japan Yakuza game that never came to the United States. And I watched tons of YouTube videos about it and was looking up like English language, you know, like patches online. And I was like, I wish I want to play this so bad. Because the setting, like I like Yakuza, but this setting is actually probably a little bit more intriguing to me. And this game always looked really awesome. And any excuse to play kind of like an old, you know, samurai era Japan just is really exciting for me. So I am super hyped about this game. I cannot wait to play it. And I'm definitely going to be playing this one day one. I would say I'm kind of like a casual Yakuza fan. Like I played a lot of them, but I beat maybe one of them. Just because, yeah, they tend to be a little long, and they are very similar from game to game. So I tend to get burnt out on everyone. The one that I probably made it I got the least burnt out one. Was funnily enough the seventh one, Like a Dragon, just because of the change in gameplay was actually pretty cool. I liked quite a bit the turn-based thing. But yeah, no, this game is gonna be awesome. I can't wait for it.
Yeah, super excited for that. And Yakuza itself, I think. I know that you talked about again, Yakuza, Like a Dragon 8 coming out soon. I think they're porting making another Yakuza game that took place in between places. So Yakuza is really coming back or staying, in the limelight, which is good for them. Next game, something that made me think of you for obvious reasons. But Pacific Drive. This is the first title announced from Ironwood Studios. So far from what we've seen, you're playing as players who are driving around what appears to be a post-apocalyptic version of the Pacific Northwest.
My backyard.
Your backyard. Looks really interesting. It's weird to see a game that's focused all about driving that's not a driving game. Yep. And this is somewhere I haven't visited you yet, so I have not explored this place in person. So it's weird to see this something that takes place, where you're at in your neck of the woods. But it is something that looks really interesting to me. It does look like something I want to play. It's just I wonder what's the story they're trying to tell. I do like the kind of simple art style. I like it just because I feel like it plays very smooth. What did you think of this?
Yeah, I'm actually kind of intrigued by this game. And I was looking it up. I was like, who's making this game? And yeah, Ironwood. I guess it's like a Seattle team. Yep. And yeah, it actually looks pretty interesting. I don't know a ton about it. I know they had a couple write-ups about the synopsis, and I actually kind of avoided them because I was like, I actually kind of just want to play this game, and I don't want to know too much about it. I've seen enough, and I'm like, okay, I don't know, and I'll just leave that mystery to be discovered in the game. But so far, overall, I'm pretty sold on it. It is kind of cool, that it does take place in the Pacific Northwest. But then I think about it, and I'm like, you got this game, you got Days Gone, and you got Last of Us 2. What are they trying to tell me here? What's going on? Why is it always wrecked over here when we play? But overall, yeah, no, this game looks pretty cool, and I definitely want to play it.
Yeah, super interesting. The PlayStation Stars loyalty program that we discussed a few weeks ago, or a few episodes back, it's going to start rolling out soon. They showed not too much. They had a little presentation. They showed what some of these little rewards and digital goods would look like. We had a glimpse of Polygon Man again, which we haven't seen since PlayStation, the PlayStation Smash Brother game. It's weird because they didn't really show where you would see this, or is there going to be some weird little app you have to download on the PlayStation? Because what good is just looking at these going to really do? I still have my theory that I brought up last time when we discussed this. Would it be nice to walk around in VR, a little showroom with this stuff? We'll see. We'll see if my theory comes true, or my hopes. I guess it's less of a theory, more my hopes. Again, they just didn't show much of it though. They kind of just discussed it, and it's kind of the same stuff that was discussed in the blog, just in video format. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, not really my thing. The digital collectible thing in general, I think, is just not really my thing. I don't even really get that invested in trophies, let alone if you give me a little digital trinket. It's not really my thing. But I think this will probably be pretty successful for them. I just see the way people get over trophies. So if there's people I want to unlock the gold variant, Nathan Drake statue, I could see them probably getting a lot. I think this is a great initiative to encourage player engagement and stuff like that. And I think the more things that they have to engage people, to motivate people to play, that is not some corny microtransaction thing, but instead of a way you can win different prizes and different stuff like that. I think this is going to be a fun thing for a lot of people, but definitely not something I see myself even paying much attention to.
Yeah, unless there's some real incentives, I guess, in a way. It really does though feel like this was an NFT thing where at the last second they're like, no, let's scrap blockchain and all the actual, all the stuff that makes an NFT. This seems like they're like, no, and this is what was left over. But it's alright, as long as there's no NFTs, it's fine. Finally, we got a relook at Project Eve, which game we were pretty excited for. It's shown its full name now. It's now been renamed as Stellar Blade. super interesting looking game. You know, we gotta look at some cinematics. We got some stuff at the gameplay. It looks like, you know, obviously we have that futuristic setting. It's hard to really describe it just because it's almost. It looks just so much like, I don't know, like space DMC with the female protagonist, but you have these weird, almost demonic creatures,
aka Bayonetta.
Yeah,
basically.
Also Bayonetta. So it's like Cyber Bayonetta.
Yeah.
She even pulls like a gun out of nowhere at one point, starts blasting dudes. It's super flowy hair. So I wish some of that stuff wasn't so. You know, it's cool, but it's like, man, we've seen that before, and we've seen it with even more style. It looks really interesting though. Gameplay wise, it looks like it's right up my alley with, you know, the Bayonetta DMC stuff. Just I hope by the time I get this, I don't think they gave us a date. You know, I beat Bayonetta 1 recently. I'm going through 2, and my plan is to continue right into Bayonetta 3. I just hope this doesn't just burn me out. I hope it does have its own flair. It does seem to have its sort of own style to it, but again, some of the stuff just looks pulled right out of another game, which is unfortunate. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it looks pretty cool. I was pretty interested in it. Yeah, when they kind of unveiled it as Project Eve, and I believe this is like Korean developed, and it's always kind of cool when you see these kind of games with certain style of different regions, but like not from the conventional, you know, U.S. or, you know, Japan. You get the, you know, China, Korea, South Korea, South America. Like, it's cool when you just see games come out of countries that maybe you don't always see it come out of all the time. So this game, yeah, it looks really solid. I can definitely see their influences there. You know, I saw a lot of, you know, a Square Enix take on Bayonetta, basically, it kind of felt like. But overall, I'm definitely down to give it a try. The big thing is, for me, you know, the aesthetic is cool. I like the character design overall, but that gameplay actually looks pretty solid. And that's the big thing for me, is kind of that dynamic combat, and just some of the different particle effects that were going on, and how just like how complex some of the battle styles look. Like, I think they're actually doing something here, so I have my eye on it. Ultimately, this is not something I'm 100% sold on that I'm gonna like pre-order or anything like that, but it's definitely something I'm keeping my eye on, and if the reviews are solid about it, I definitely can see myself jumping into it. I'm down to give it a shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And, you know, PS5, well, it's weird, they say PS5 console exclusive, so probably
PC, yeah,
as well later on. And then the last thing we have announced, so the Neo developer announces an open world samurai game, Rise of the Ronin, which looks super cool. It's weird that it's super interesting, right? I tried out the Neo games. I'm not super good at them just because of the style of games they are. So this is obviously Team Ninja, their first. This is probably not their first, but in a while. This is their open world samurai game. It's going to be a PlayStation 5 console exclusive as well, with the release window of 2024. The trailer showed off this nice, gorgeous, you know, Japan setting, characters, and themes and feel of it. It's weird that it's interesting, right? Because the gameplay looks solid on its own, but it's weird to see that out of nowhere we now have multiple games in this sort of genre. In a sense, you know, we had Ghost of Tsushima, then we have Assassin's Creed finally going into this era.
Trek to Yomi.
Rise of the Ronin, Trek to Yomi, a Yakuza game now in this area. So we went from an unexplored time that people have been asking for to constant. Now we have maybe a little too much. There's going to be a lot of toe-stepping stuff, because I saw this, I thought of Assassin's Creed, and then I thought of, well, we even got a even better version. Now, assuming this is Team Ninja, you know, from the Neo games, this is probably going to be a little bit more hardcore in the sense that it's probably going to be very, you know, Bloodborne, Dark Souls-esque, Neo-esque, esque. So there is some worry there that that this may be speaking to a different audience, which is good, because this is a nice area that you can have this sort of theme, setting, characters, but if you want that specific sort of gameplay style, then it's there for you. I know you like those games a little bit more than I do. Not that but you played them more than I do.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm a sucker for a samurai game. I will usually give most of them a shot if they release it. And yeah, I totally see what you mean, that we're kind of getting inundated in the past couple of years with all these type of games of people trying to tap into that energy. And my big thing for at least me playing it is what is the differentiator for you? You know, what are you doing to kind of set yourself apart from everybody else? And I think so far each of the people who have tried the samurai thing recently have done a good job in kind of differentiating themselves. When you have a Ghost of Tsushima, obviously there is the split dynamic between being the ghost and being the samurai, and there's a stealth component of it. And then also there's the beautiful art style, and that's inspired by samurai movies, but it's not a samurai movie in and of itself, where you go to Trek to Yomi, which is literally a playable samurai movie, like 100%. Like the aesthetic is the grainy footage, and you're running through, and it goes seamless between the combat and the storyline. You got the Yakuza games, which, you know, it's a spin-off of the Yakuza thing, so they're probably focusing more on the criminal enterprise functionality and stuff like that, and some of that active combat. And then Assassin's Creed, who knows? Assassin's Creed's going to be what it is. We don't know yet. What I think this has going for Rise of the Ronin is the fact that, you know, Team Ninja are masters of combat and making dynamic, complex combat that keeps you on your toes and keeps you paying attention and engaged. I love Neo a lot, especially Neo 2. And so that is the big seller for me. You know, Rise of the Ronin, just in and of itself, I'm like, that's cool. I might get around to it at some point. But when I found out it was by Team Ninja, I'm like, oh, okay, that changes things. I'm in that day one. Just because I know that, like, when you want to talk, like, precise battles that really matter and can go one way, you know, in a split second, that's Samurai down to it. So, you know, if anybody's made to make a game like that, it would be the Neo devs, just because, you know, when playing Neo, you know, sometimes it's slow and plotting, sometimes it's fast and chaotic, and straddling that line and knowing how to approach certain situation is kind of baked into their games. And so I feel like that's a perfect match for Rise of the Ronin. And I think this game is set to be very, very solid, and I'm quite excited for it.
Yeah, so am I. I'm excited to see really just what it has to offer, because that is a genre I love.
Yeah.
And, you know, you don't have to play them all back to back, so you can spread them out.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. So I guess we can move into the last story, but probably the biggest story. There's the biggest story in the game industry the past week or so, where a game that we didn't even know technically even existed yet was leaked and confirmed to actually exist. So got quite a bit of reading here, and then we can discuss here. So on Sunday, September 18th, a massive and unprecedented leak of one of the most anticipated game of the decade happened. Dozens of video files related to Grand Theft Auto 6 began appearing on fan forum GTA forums, giving the world a first look at Rockstar's next AAA game. The leak was from a user named TPoTuber Hacker or something like that, and who also claimed to be the same person who hacked the ride-hailing app Uber earlier in the month. And here are 90 footage and clips from GTA 6, they wrote. The hacker also shared what looks to be like various GTA 6 assets and also code from the game. And to clarify really quick here, there was a lot of rumors going around about him also being in possession of the source code of GTA, which would have obviously been catastrophic for the performance of any GTA titles going forward. As of right now, it seems that is not confirmed, and that it doesn't seem like they are in possession of the source code. So that's something I did look into. There is no proof that he is in possession of that, I don't believe. So going from there, later that same day, leaked videos on multiple platforms were removed at the request of Take-Two Interactive. As reported by Video Games Chronicles, takedown requests appeared to come from individuals with Rockstar email addresses, all but confirming that the leaks were legitimate. And then in a surprising move, Rockstar actually confirmed the veracity of the hack itself in a statement. London City Police announced that they arrested a 17-year-old from Oxfordshire Thursday evening, and while the police have yet to confirm exactly why, it's been reported that the teen was arrested in connection with the recent Uber and GTA 6 leaks. The suspect remains in city police custody at this time. So that's crazy. So basically, to quickly summarize beyond what we read, a guy hacked, it seemed to using maybe a phishing email or a phishing something through Slack, seemed to have been able to get access to a whole bunch of files related to GTA 6. It's also important to note that these are all quite old. From what I understand, this is from a build from a couple years back. I don't know if it's 2018 or 2019, somewhere around there.
Yeah, a little bit of both.
Yeah, but it is quite old. So what we saw is a much earlier version of what GTA theoretically even looks like now. It's probably night and day what it actually looks like now and what we actually saw. So we saw it quite early. There was a lot of placeholder stuff there, but it did confirm a lot of the rumors that were swirling around beforehand. So what does it confirm? It confirms pretty much that the game does indeed take place in Vice City. It confirms that there is going to be a man and woman protagonist, so 2 protagonists. And it does confirm that the Bonnie and Clyde storyline thing that had been, rumored beforehand seems to be the direction that they're going into. But before we get into what we actually feel about what we saw, let's discuss the leak overall. What were your thoughts about kind of hearing the leak? What were your, early impressions about when this whole story broke for the first time?
So yeah, when the story broke, I again didn't believe it. You see, we constantly see, if there's 2 things we see trending, right, is a Switch Pro and a GTA 6.
Yeah, constantly.
So when I saw this again, didn't really think much of it. I clicked the link to see what fan-made game was out there they're talking about. To the point where I do remember, it's weird because I remember the moment. I was on vacation. I'm laying in my hotel bed, and I actually sat up, and I was like, wait a minute, and I'm, looking at the photos and looking at everything that was coming out and the whole presidency, and then everyone chiming in. Jason Schreier had, of course, it was chiming in, and everyone talking about it. And it was super. I felt super, it was super unfortunate. I felt bad for them because I was like, man, this is not how I wanted to see GTA 6 for the first time. So I was kind of torn because I was like, not looking at the legal aspects, the super nerd of me was super interested to see what a game looks like in development. Obviously, I knew this was not 2022 footage. I wasn't dumb. And I think most people aren't that dumb. There is, of course, those people out there who think the game looked terrible. But I was like super intrigued to see what it looks like, that day-to-day basis of what you're doing when you're working on a game. But then I felt super unfortunate because Rockstar's been very hush-hush. They did come out and tell us, listen, we're working on the next GTA game. That's really, I think, all they said to us. So it is unfortunate. And then I heard, obviously, the rest of the story of the kid being very, because I got an email from Uber saying that there was some sort of breach and whatever. So I had known about that. So when I saw all that, and I know there's I know the one guy's kind of getting all the blame. Apparently, he's part of one of these vigilante hacker groups.
Yep.
His own group apparently is the one who's turning him in or whatever. That gets a little off. So it is wild to see something that's to this extent. And to something we kind of discussed earlier. The last time we saw something to this level was The Last of Us 2 leaks, in my opinion, which was leaked very similar through a sort of someone using Slack, and they got through backdoor through one of the Uncharted Online things, so they got the server and everybody used someone's Slack account. It's super weird how that happened. So I felt really bummed out at first. When Rockstar came out and said that wasn't. It's they're like, yes, they were true. It wasn't the worst thing ever. It's not like they stole and went in there, deleted stuff. So the game's not being rocked on that form. It was unfortunate though because this is not how you want to see it. We've been hearing leaks from Jason Schreier and Constant through other influencers, so we had a good feeling of it. But to see it just in this form, it's not how I wanted it to show, and it sucks. I know that's not how Rockstar wanted it to show it off. When they hit us with that big trailer finally, it's gonna be ridiculous. So that's how I initially felt.
Yeah. For me, I found out, as through you. And I have spoken to you briefly about that earlier, but I didn't buy it at all. for a while. You know, I had kind of seen it, and my initial reaction was, you know, Steve, what are you sending me? What is this?
Yeah.
And you know, I'm reading through it, and I start looking at all the tweets, and I thought it was, you know, intriguing. I'm like, okay, this is certainly not what has happened previously, where, you know, GTA 6 trending and it's just people asking where GTA 6 is. This is okay. This seems to be something, and I'm seeing the code running in the background. I'm like, okay, somebody has something. This is weird. Like, I would say it's weird. Like, is it so next gen looking that like it absolutely, this cannot be fake? No, not necessarily. But then I'm starting to see the world react, and I'm like, okay, this doesn't look like a fan made it. You know, and I'm looking into the sky. I'm looking at the cars and the environments. I'm like, okay, like this is. And it wasn't until I saw the statement from Rockstar, and I'm like, oh my god. Or no, actually, it wasn't until I heard the takedowns. When I heard the takedowns, that all but confirms it. Because, you know, if this is BS, if some guy, you know, John down the street makes a build and it's like, this is GTA 6 and just messing around, you know, Take-Two is not going to move quick to take that down. They, you know, if he starts trying to sell it and stuff like that, yeah, you're infringing on their IP or whatever. But, you know, when they're showing tweets, I'm seeing tweets getting ripped down and people's videos and things getting shut down and forums getting, like, you know, locking threads and everything on that. I'm like, oh snap, this is real. And then they released a statement, and I'm like, I part of me couldn't believe that it was happening, just because I wouldn't have imagined something on this scale happening to a rock star. I just didn't see it happening. You know, like if you told me, you know, some Devolver Digital small studio had some things leaked because they sent the wrong file to somebody, I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, that. But like not only Rockstar, but GTA 6, somebody leaked GTA 6. There's no way. I would be like, there's no way they leaked it. Or like they'll leak details maybe, or they leak some art, but like videos of like the game running, I was like, there's no way. The difference, I guess, between that and like The Last of Us is The Last of Us was, you know, weeks before the game came out. The game was done, but like years out, you know, where like imagine you're in the middle of playing Uncharted 4 and somebody's like, The Last of Us 2 just leaked. Like, imagine that, like that's what it's like. Like, it's like, this game, it might be closer now, but like we had never heard the name GTA 6 uttered by Rockstar before, ever. They said the next GTA game, then other than that, it was all speculation. And so seeing this happen, it was pretty crazy. And yeah, that must suck, man. I was thinking about that, where it's like, imagine spending years and years developing this, and not only developing the game, but developing a strategy of like how you want to roll this out and how do you want to show this for the first time. And not only does the rollout get kind of stepped on a bit, but imagine you make this game, this beautiful game that you put so much work into, the animations and the voice acting and the environments and the textures and the way things interact with each other, and an old build from the middle of the, you know, right before the pandemic leaks. Like, imagine how pissed you'd be, like, where it's like, not only this is not how we wanted to show it, but like, you know, timeline wise, but this is not even how the game looks anymore. Like, this is the old version. Exactly. And you have boneheads online being like, oh, this looks crap. And it's like, yeah, because they're not making it to be pretty right now. They're making it to function. Like, this is a game in progress. This is not, you know, this is not an E3 vertical slice. So why would it be the most beautiful thing in the world? Like, that's not the focus. Stability is the focus. How the systems work, you know, how characters interact with each other, bump into environmental things, like the geometry, the code underneath it is what the focus of like a build like that early on would be. And I'm not a game developer. I just feel like just using context clues, that's what you could imagine. So all the idiots out there, and it's like, this game looks just like GTA 5 or it looks terrible, and it's like, well, yeah, newsflash, like they're not developing the game with 4K textures and ray tracing happening. You know what I mean? Like, that's not how you do it. So yeah, that's pretty trippy. But what now I'm curious about, now that we've discussed kind of how we felt about the news rolling out, what we've seen, put into with the caveat knowing that this is a work in progress. What are your thoughts about that? You know, like, does this make you more excited? Like, do you have thoughts about the setting and the characters and stuff like that? What are your thoughts?
Oh, I don't think I've been this hyped for GTA ever.
Yeah.
Again, my condolences to Rockstar that this happened to you. But let me tell you, I'm even more excited for your game now. Vice City is one of my more favorite GTAs. I just like that era. I thought it was all really cool, and so we know for sure it's taking place in Vice City, because I think one of the clips I saw, and that's 90 clips from different sections of whatever that was leaked. It's rough to it's rough to see like what people saw, but like the cop cars there, though they were looks like they were asset flips from GTA 5, they did say VCPD on them, so I assume Vice City Police Department. So we know it's taking place in Vice City, which is somewhere where people have been asking for a lot. People were asking for DLC and GTA 5 about it, and it's really cool. I know we have the two characters, which I believe is Jason and Lucia, which again confirms that it's a female Hispanic, will be one of the playable characters, and you assume her boyfriend, partner, Jason, or whatever it is, whatever the story ends up being, which is something we heard not too long ago, which was that they were going to go off the sort of Bonnie and Clyde type situation. So that's something that, again, I was hyped when we got the rumors, and I'm even more hyped now that we know it's true. Some of those small mechanics, I mean, people complaining it looks like GTA 5. I don't know what you expected it to look like. You guys forget that GTA 5 was, 2013?
Yeah,
2013.
Yeah.
And it's been constantly worked on. They constantly make it look better and better and better. We just got the PS5 and series versions of it, so it looked cool. We saw the I saw the, well, at least I saw it, that whole time until cops dispatched meter, which is, I mean, right out of Red Dead 2. I mean, it's just, and obviously we see a lot of that stuff. Obviously they build upon their game, so a lot of these features that make sense to pull from Red Dead 2 are appearing in GTA. I saw the heist of like a waffle restaurant, and a lot of the stuff just looked like GTA, which is why I don't know why people were so surprised. They're like, oh, why does this look like this? The game looked like and ran like what in my mind a GTA looks like, so I'm not sure why some people were so shocked. Again, I couldn't look at everything just because, oh god, there's so much stuff, and a lot of it, there were so many just like gray box area dialogue. I did see that part where they're walking through like a club and on their phone, and it's a very Rockstar thing to do. Instead of WhatsApp, it's like what's up.
Yeah,
comes up on a message or something like that, and that's how they're texting and stuff like that. And so it looks interesting. It looks like a lot of cool, maybe new updated mechanics, which is what I want. It seemed to control really well, even to be an old video. So they're estimating this was 2018, 2019 footage. To me means the game's not way far, but further along than I expected them to be.
Yeah, me too.
And I know they've been working on it. I think I was surprised that I'm like, if this is what you guys had 3 years ago, where are you guys now? It kind of like that timeline. I know we joke about timeline shifts a lot, but I was like, this game is still going to be a little while out, but not to the point that we were thinking end of the cycle for PS5. I think maybe only a few years off, which is exciting in my prospect of it, just because I mean you're seeing all these hardcore mechanics like the ducking, the running and the shooting and all that was working well. It was and part of it was funny to see the kind of behind the curtains. When they rob the, I don't know, whatever restaurant is they're robbing, the people putting money, but like all the people in the background are just like placeholders, so they're just like frozen in spot, and you hear dialogue but nothing's reacting, again because it's so early footage. It was interesting to see that because you never see that, which is exciting. That I think no organization as a whole did it, but I think certain developers obviously got permission from their higher ups to like put footage of what games look like in development. Completely gray models or completely red models, no background, no faces on their models. It was nice to have that sort of support to Rockstar from everyone who did that. Obviously Neil Druckmann had a few words to say, obviously. So it's exciting to me. Again, this makes me more excited for GTA 6 just because it looks like it's not just more GTA 5. It's to an extent. Obviously, some of that, I'm assuming it's going to control just like GTA 5, which is, half and half for me. But it does look like it's not just going to be just folded over DLC that never hit the light of day. It does look like it's its own thing. It looks like, again, the Bonnie and Clyde storyline looks like it's going to be there. The characters look like it's going to have finally some diversity. Super excited. How did you feel about it?
Yeah, I was actually quite impressed with what I saw. I was actually kind of sitting there confused. And I'm not really on social media right now, but, when the leaks came out, I kind of glanced around Twitter just to, see what people were saying. And most people said, similar to what we were felt, that, it's a shame that this happened, but, it makes us really excited. And I saw some people talking about how bad it looks and stuff like that. And that was kind of confusing to me because, I'm not looking at, Red Dead Redemption 2 released and holding that side by side to this 2019 build footage and be like, see, this looks better. Like that, I don't get why somebody would do that. If you have like a 5% understanding of game development. And what I was paying attention to was just like, some of the systems that played. I looked at some of the background environments. I was like zooming in and looking as close as possible to some of the backgrounds and the way the clothing was moving and the hair was moving. And I was like, that these systems, like, this is advanced stuff. Like, this game's gonna look seriously beautiful. And like, I don't think like necessarily. I've seen some people also saying that like Rockstar maybe has not always been at the forefront of visual capability, so don't expect it to look that good. That's why it might not look that good. Red Dead looked beautiful to me. I don't know what y'all are talking about. Yeah, like and people are like, well, GTA doesn't look the best, and it's like, but it did in 2013. Like it doesn't look the best now, but Red Dead looked gorgeous to me. So it's still one of the best looking games, especially of that generation. And so, I was actually quite impressed, and I'm super excited about this game. I pretty much consistently liked most, if not all, of the GTAs that they put out in terms of the mainline series. I love the Vice City environment, and so a modern Vice City, is a dream come true as far as I'm concerned. GTA 5 controls very well, but there are like a lot of systems, for example, that like I hope that they take some from like GTA 4 and they mix it with like the dynamic environments of GTA 5. Like, I love the interwoven narrative of 4 and the way that I feel like the random encounters of 4 and in Red Dead are superior to the ones in 5. So I hope that, they take some of that. But I'm seeing a lot of good so far, and seeing, when I found out that this was, I was impressed, and I thought that was new footage. I thought that was the game now. And I didn't even hold that against them. It doesn't surprise me that like maybe GTA wouldn't be the farthest along, just because how successful 5 is. Like, why would they cut the tail off, needlessly, just financially? Like, I know they need to release another game eventually, but like if 5 is still moving insane amount of units, why cut that off? Because the moment that they release 6, most new purchases are just going to pivot to 6. You know what I mean? Like, especially once that online, GTA Online moves to 6 and everything like that. Sales for 5 are going to decline, so like why cut the tail off? But then I found out that this build is actually years old, which blew my mind, because then I'm like, oh yeah, so that moves my mental timeline up considerably. If you would have asked me, a month ago, when do you think GTA 6 is actually in people's hands, I would guess tail end 2025, maybe 2026, like is probably what I would say realistically, to give GTA 5 all, like, squeeze every last drop out of GTA 5, and then maybe you see another side project. Maybe eventually that GTA 4 remaster resurfaces in that time to tide people over, and then GTA 6 is that was my guess. Or you'll see like a Red Dead 1 serious cleanup, and then that got re-released before GTA 6. That was my guess. But seeing how far this is along, that moves it in my head like 2024 probably. I still don't think it's next year. Some people say it's next year. I don't think so. They don't seem to, when Rockstar actually works on things, they don't rush things. Next year seems a little soon. If they set a date, like December 2023, maybe, but I still think that's a little early. So my guess is something like, Q2, Q3, 2024 is probably my guess. Which I think is really awesome, because I don't think they need to rush. I have been playing GTA pretty consistently since it came out. I am beyond burnt out on GTA 5, but I still play it. but I'm still happy to wait because when GTA drops, it's an event, and I think they need to do what they need to do to maintain that standard of quality and to make it really mean something when GTA comes out. Because when GTA comes out, the industry stops. Period. And so I think they're doing what they got to do to ensure that continues, and that when GTA 6 comes out, people are blown away the same way that when GTA 5 came out, the same way that they were when San Andreas came out and GTA 4 and you name it. You go back pretty much from 3 onwards, it's been like a genre defining moment when these games come out. And say what you want about GTA 5, like that changed the game for sure. It changed the way that studios monetize games. It changes the way people made open worlds. It changed the way that people tell stories, and with kind of asynchronous multi-protagonist stories. And I think that they're at least, I'm sure, going to strive to do the same thing with 6. Whatever that does, we don't know yet, but. I'm quite excited and very impressed with what I saw, and it really sucks for them, but I hope the morale hit that maybe that the team's a little bummed out doesn't stick around too long, because I think they have a lot to be proud of, and I hope the vocal stupid voices on social media that don't know how game development work doesn't make them feel worse. And that they instead hear the voices of the many people who do to some extent understand it and are not, beating them up about it. Because, I love the footage that the Control devs dropped of how that game looked in development. Because it's like, come on, guys. Like, it's like what we're working on here are systems and geometry and the code. And the aesthetics is something that happens on the top level before release, is not something that's happening in the background. And so I think the GTA devs have a lot to be proud of, especially if that is. I mean, you have to think how far back that was. That was pre-pandemic footage. Like that's before that's 3 years old. Upwards of. So if that's the game then, I could only imagine what they have now. That game just. I would imagine to some extent, maybe not front to back, but that game is probably very playable right now. A lot of it is, and so I'm very excited about this game because, that's going to be my next 10 years, I'm sure. So I'm excited to see what they do with it.
No, I completely agree. That's my thing. GTA is going to be such an event. Like you said, you'll see when they announce a date. See how many delays come out. All these people moving their games. Yeah,
just throwing their games out of the year. So
they'll be like, nope. Any game that's similar to that is ridiculous.
Except for Saints Row 4, who somehow had the balls to launch next to them. But that was bold of them to do. But all in all, I mean, it's an unfortunate story, but it is a story nonetheless. It was something that. Again, I don't send you every single game thing that releases, but this was one that I was like, hold on. I was like, I know you're offline, man, but hey, there's something going on. That's the kind of stories I want people to send me right there.
I was like, this is something you need to see now, because I knew once I felt that instinct, I was like, no, this is for sure something. I was like, he needs to see. He doesn't need to, but I was like, people were, you're gonna see some of this stuff before it's completely scrubbed. And let me tell you, they did a job cleaning, because someone else I know was trying to look, and they are asking me. I was like, listen, I don't know what you want me to tell you. All my links are dead. All the TikToks are gone.
They're good.
Twitters
they're gone.
There's nothing for me to share with you. I was like, I can tell you what I saw. I don't know.
Yeah, which is why when I was like prepping all this stuff for this episode, and I prepped the thumbnails up front, I'm not even playing with them. So, you guys, I would love to put a GTA 6, look at the thumbnail, but no, it's going to be Zelda today, to be safe. And I am going to have my eye on, let's see if putting GTA 6 in the title affects anything. We'll see. But, we should be okay to talk about it. We don't show anything, so we
didn't show anything, and that's an easy fight.
Yeah. We'll see. But yeah, no, it's crazy, and to kind of end off on this, God bless that kid who leaked all this stuff. He's gonna have a rough couple years ahead of him. Because I knew they were on him, and I found out about the Uber thing yesterday too. So I'm like, oh, he's screwed. Like he is.
He's going to jail.
Like he's going to prison, like years type of thing. So yeah, best of luck to you, kid. Like I don't know what to tell you, but yeah. And then to the GTA devs, keep your heads up, and I'm excited to see where we go from here. And then it's probably going to be pretty quiet again because again, they were not even remotely close to wanting to talk about GTA 6 yet. So I've seen some people talking about like, well, now that it's out, maybe they'll be more like forward about it. Probably not, to be honest with you. I think they're gonna get back to work and reveal things when they're ready to reveal things. But Rockstar doesn't tend to. I remember when they revealed GTA 5 like properly, they had footage of like Los Santos in totality and like Blaine County and up north. They were showing the game. They had Michael playing tennis and golf and stuff like that. Like this, It was incredibly far along. It was months away from release. And I would imagine GTA 6 is probably going to be no different. And same thing with Red Dead. We saw Red Dead pretty close to release. And so I would imagine GTA 6 is probably going to be the same way. So we're probably not going to see anything officially from Rockstar related to this game until my guess maybe tail end of 2023. Game Awards season 2023 is probably when we'll Rockstar will probably have something to say and to show, because chances are they'll probably want to show off the game when they talk about the game. You know what I mean? Like they don't seem like much. They're not Bethesda where they're going to be like, this is happening at some point in the next 10 years, like with Elder Scrolls and the other game they got. So yeah, it's probably going to be a long time. So we're probably just going to have to sit on this for a while. But hey, I'm down to see whatever they have when they have it. And in the meantime, I'll keep playing GTA 5 and whatever they have for me. But yeah, that was the show for you guys this week. It was a really big show. Lots of different things going on, and as we said, eventually the game industry was going to pick up again because we were in a crazy lull for a while. So now that we're coming up on fall, God of War is right around the corner. That's going to be early November, I think. Mm-hmm. We got Pokemon coming. We got a whole bunch of stuff on the horizon. Bayonetta, very excited about it. So keep your eyes out for another episode. We'll have a whole bunch of news for you guys. This is the NeoVintage podcast, and I'm here with
Steve. Hope you guys enjoyed.
And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.